Welcome to Why Though the podcast.
We did it. That was amazing.
Well,
So we're both. Well, we're not in the same place.
we're not in the same place.
Unlike
Hi,
our
Lizzy
usual-
Acker.
Oh, hi, Destiny Johnson. Welcome to Why Though the podcast.
Welcome to Why Though the podcast remote struggle edition.
Remote. Yeah, we're doing it edition. You know,
We're doing
like we're
edition.
making it happen edition.
Yes, we're doing it for you, the listeners, because we appreciate you.
Yes.
Lizzy is fresh back to work from vacation, but still in Michigan, right?
That's right. I'm in Michigan.
Yes.
In the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, Marquette, Michigan, on the shores of Lake Superior.
Wow, that sounds beautiful. I'm in Portland
is-
sweating my little patoot off because it has been
Yeah.
really warm here.
Very
And I'm taking off for Florida, another incredibly warm and terrible place tonight. My family lives there. That's the unterrible part. So I'm going to go hang out with my family for a little bit. But so while we're doing this fancy struggle edition, getting it out to the people, we have been doing a couple of Am I the Bad Guys from Reddit forums, as you've heard over the past couple of weeks, because Lizzy has been on a well-deserved vacation, but we are back to our regularly scheduled content. And Lizzy sent me over a conundrum that I think will be very good for talking about today. That came to you fresh, right? Like
Absolutely.
In case
fresh.
anybody's wondering,
Yeah.
people do send Lizzy stuff all the time.
They do. And I got this one. I was like, yes, I'm on it. I love it. And it's perfect timing because we needed one for the podcast today. And also that means for the, the column that I write also, Why Though the column. You can find all of the stuff at OregonLive.com/why though. That's where it is.
You can listen to old podcasts. You can see old columns. You can see the new column that will be coming out the Tuesday after this airs on Thursday. And also there's another way that people can get a hold of you, right, Lizzy?
There is another way, and I haven't mentioned this way in a long time, so I'm going to have to look it up. Yes, you can also text me. Text the word advice to 503-751-8731, and then just click the link and subscribe. And I'm going to text you back. I'm actually going to text you, and I'm back in town, ready to text. Okay, I'm not technically in town, but I'm ready to text.
She will be soon returning to the promised land that is Portland, Oregon. And
as soon as it's back in the 80s, I'll be in Portland.
Well, thank God. Sunday. I mean, that's why the weather went all out of whack. It was like, man, we really miss Lizzy. We got to act out.
My bad.
Yeah, it's all right. But Lizzy really will text you. So if you're part of any other like texting subscription services, you may get some like read our weekly newsletter type things. But these you will get an automatic text as the first one. But if you're corresponding with Lizzy, you will know, like real life, it's Lizzy really texting you. So that's pretty different from a lot of like texting services that exist. Yeah. So
totally better than AI.
Cool. Better than AI. Down with AI. Eh?
My teeth look so big today. I don't know why. Anyway.
Tooth day. You know what? Like it happens. It's fine.
We've all been there.
We should have had a podcast downloading about the Barbie movie.
Oh yes.
Maybe we can do that as an extra at some point. But
yeah,
if you're ready, Lizzy, to
I am
advice,
ready. Advice me up.
Dusting off the dust there. And I will read you this conundrum.
Okay, great.
Listeners. All right. Here we go. Early on in the pandemic, a good friend of mine moved to Alaska. Not long after that, his on-again, off-again girlfriend of many years moved to the city where I live, in part for the direct flights to Anchorage. Trying to be a good friend, we took her in, inviting her over for dinner and drinks, asking her to house sit, etc. Last month, the friend called me on the phone, unusual, to tell me that he had broken things off with the girlfriend. Then he went a step further, asking me not to associate with her anymore. When I asked why, he would only say that, quote, she is not the person you think she is, end quote. Because he's my friend, I agreed to the terms, but it has created an awkward situation. The apartment the now ex-girlfriend found is just a few blocks from us, and I already think I saw her scurrying away from me at the supermarket. Another mutual friend in town didn't have a problem with the request, but I felt bad. I just wouldn't want to be in her shoes. Did I do the right thing by cutting the ex out of our lives? Was my friend wrong to ask? Signed, Uncertain Friend.
Ooh.
This is juicy.
It's juicy. If you have questions like this, send them to me. I love a juicy question.
Yes. This one's like, I think it's like very layered, right? Like there are a lot of players in this and like a lot of angles to approach from. So what's your like initial thought.
My initial thought is your friend was not right to ask you to do this. I
I agree.
I don't, unless he can give you, or she, I don't know if we mentioned the gender because I'm not looking at it, but like unless that friend can give you a reason, this sort of they're not the person you think they are is too vague for me. Like I don't think you can ask your friends to be like, "Hey, take in this person, help my girlfriend like feel comfortable in your town," and then ask them to cut that person out of their lives.
Well, unclear if so the friend is a man.
I guess, yeah. Okay, the friend is a man
Um,
and the new
the friend
person
is a
and the
man.
person is a girlfriend.
Uh-huh.
Mm,
Unclear if the man friend asked the friend, the uncertain friend, the writer,
yeah.
to take the girlfriend in. It kind of seems like maybe they did that on their own accord, which is very sweet,
Yeah.
which leads me to my next point.
Mhm.
This person seems really empathetic,
Mhm.
the
Right.
writer, which I
Mhm.
think is really sweet.
Mhm.
But I do agree with your point that like you can't just vaguely ask. I mean, you can, but it
You
makes you
sure
a
you
little bit of a
can.
jerk.
Right.
And we're not in middle school anymore. Like you
Mhm.
need to allow like you could I think the respectable thing to do in this situation would be to maybe tell your friend, omitting all the details you don't want to share
Mhm.
about the situation, if it's bad enough that you don't want them to associate with the person for like the safety of your friend.
Right. Yes. But if it's just because like you broke up and you feel uncomfortable about it,
Right.
you I firmly maintain that people do not have ownership over other people. It's not okay. If you're in a relationship with someone, yes, you can definitely expect them to be faithful to you. That's great. If that's like the terms of your relationship. But once you've broken up with someone, you cannot say who their friends can be. You cannot say who they can date. Like that's none of your business anymore.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to, if you broke up with someone who was abusive, it might be traumatic to tell your friend, but also would it, if you care enough about your friend that you don't want them to associate with someone dangerous, then you should tell them that,
Mm-hmm.
right? And this doesn't feel like that. I mean, I just don't know because the friend in Alaska didn't give the friend in the other city any information.
Yeah. Like also the dynamic between friends and the dynamic between a relationship that can go south for many reasons. Like in extreme circumstances, obviously abuse, and then in less extreme circumstances, like just falling apart. Like,
Hmm.
even when things are really benign in the end of a relationship, there can be a lot of bitter feelings that just like need to be worked through, right?
Right.
Like, I firmly believe you can be friends with your exes. Some people don't
Hmm.
agree, and I think those people need to maybe go touch some grass, but like, I just like, they're sometimes at first it's not the business, you know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
you just have some feelings about that person,
Right.
and asking your friends to harbor those feelings for you, uh little
Bad.
immature.
Immature. And yeah, I think you're right. Like we have this idea culturally sometimes that like when people break up, there's a bad guy and a good guy. But
Mm-hmm.
really, most of the time when people break up, there are just two people who are not good together.
Right.
Neither of them has to be bad, but you can, and also you can be angry at someone or you can feel like something didn't work out in your relationship. And it doesn't mean that person is bad. They just weren't right for you, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But that, and also I have another issue here, which is that I have been in a city without, I mean, like you're saying, this letter writer is very empathetic, and I have moved to a city where I didn't know anybody, and I mean, this was like in my 20s, long ago, and I try to tell the story without giving away too much information, but I moved to a city, and a person I knew who was like an ex of another friend moved to the same city when we were in our 20s, and there was some weirdness from our friends back home about us being friends. But I think, we had a relationship that was separate from that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and this person who moved to this new city, she's now creating relationships that are separate from her relationship with the people who don't live in that city. I mean, when you're physically together in the same place, you have a different relationship. And someone who doesn't even live in that city should not get to tell you what kind of relationship you can have. I don't think.
So I totally agree with that. I think to this writer, like to the point of the
Mhm.
question, like
Mhm.
if you feel compelled to be friends with this person and your friendship with this person would break the friendship with the other person,
Mhm.
consider the strength of the friendship with your original friend. Because I
Right.
think that's like a little unhinged. Like there are
Mhm.
people, like think about your best friend in the world. I know
Mhm.
this is sometimes like a weird concept for adults, like they don't like to have like a best friend, but I have a best friend.
Mhm.
And I think about her, and there are some people in her life that I don't like. I don't like that
Yeah.
she's friends with them. They've been mean to her. I don't, you know what I mean? Like,
Certainly.
and so, but I would never be rude to them. I would never, you know what I mean? Because
Right.
that's in my code as a
Right.
person, and I get to make that decision, right? Like,
Yeah.
I get to make the decision because if I was rude to those friends that she still maintains friendships with, that she's
Mhm.
forgiven, she
Right.
would then have to reanalyze her friendship with me. And I
Right.
wouldn't want to do that to somebody. So, like, it's really to me unfair and unkind
Mhm.
of the male friend to ask this of their friend
I agree.
because
Yeah.
you don't know the way people are going to change in different relationships. A
No.
relationship is different than a friendship. If this
Mhm.
person, this girl, wasn't who you thought she was, that doesn't mean that's not who her friends think she is.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. And like, I mean, I maintain like if you're in the same physical space as somebody, you have a different understanding of them than if you have a long
Yeah.
distance relationship. So, I mean, it doesn't feel to me like the letter writer and the girl are that close, but the relationship that I really would question is the relationship between the letter writer and the male friend in Alaska. Because what kind
Yeah.
of friend is asking you this? An immature person, or else a dishonest person, or someone who's so closed off they can't even talk to you about whatever it was that went wrong in that relationship that's making them so uncomfortable. I mean, there are things I would like to know about people. Like, if I had a friend and they were racist. They were doing something racist. I'd want to know that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I'd like that to inform my relationship. If they were a criminal or an abuser or, I don't know, like a kleptomaniac,
Right.
like tell me, do you care
Yeah.
about me? If you
There
don't
are
care,
things that like meet that tier of like you need to know this information, right?
right.
And so, like, if you feel entitled enough in the friendship to ask somebody to break off their friendship or whatever with somebody else, I think, and maybe this is wrong. I mean, let me know if you disagree,
No,
but like,
I will.
if you feel strongly enough about the friendship that you feel like you can instruct somebody in this way,
Right.
you must be close enough to them to tell them these things that meet this level. Like if this person's a neo-Nazi, if they're a
Right.
racist, if
yes.
they're gonna steal your credit
A
card information.
murderer, like they're a
Right.
convicted murderer. Like,
And if it's
you know,
not something that reaches that level, then
right,
it's just a personal problem.
right. I agree. I mean, I think like if you I question that friendship, the friendship between Alaska and other city,
Yeah.
because I can't if one of my friends came to me and said, you can't be friends with my ex, which, like I'm saying, actually did happen when I was younger. And I think that those people were being immature at the time, personally, and they were immature people. They were in their 20s. We got over
Mhm.
it. Early 20s, we were all babies. But so if these people are all babies, I don't know their ages, um, but if you are young, then consider that this is a bit of a mark of immaturity. And if you're older, a red flag. like,
No, I agree. But also on the flip side of this
mhm,
situation, if the writer,
mhm,
empathetic writer, shout out to empathetic writer,
mhm.
if they have agreed that they're going to abide by these terms for whatever their
Right.
personal
Why
reasons
did they
are.
do that? That's my question.
I mean, yeah, there's that. But if okay, so say they agreed and that's their business and that's fine.
Mhm.
Like you can't I mean, you can hold things in both hands, right? You can agree to this
Yeah.
and think it's awkward, but also
Yeah.
like you should get over the awkwardness. Like
Yeah.
if she saw you in a supermarket and she scurried away, just let
Mhm.
it happen. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
if you've made that decision, these are the consequences of the decision.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's okay. They're pretty low stakes consequences, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not like she's like
Right.
showing up on your doorstep crying her eyes out.
Yeah.
She's avoiding you in public, which isn't great.
Right.
But
Yeah. I mean, I think you can undo this decision if you want to.
yeah,
You can just be like, "Hey, I thought about it and I don't really feel comfortable doing that."
yeah,
Like it doesn't seem like these two people were great friends, but that but you can say like, I don't feel comfortable ignoring her in public. That's not something I'm willing to do with literally anybody. I mean, I can't think of anybody that I would do that to except for someone who is incredibly mean to me or something. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So that, and that would have to be personally me,
Right.
like not somebody who was even mean to my brother. Like I would probably
Mhm.
still be like hi if they said hi to me. You know what I mean?
Sure, right.
I don't know. Like I don't. It's just like just normal like how we function as a society stuff.
Mhm.
But then I was thinking as you were talking about this too, this reminds me of another thing that happened to me once, and it feels really controlling of the letter writer to me, because I
Oh.
feel like that the person also said, not the letter writer, sorry, Alaska friend,
Oh, yeah.
totally Alaska friend, because he also clearly said something to the girl. Why is the girl scurrying away from this person?
Mhm.
And once I had this ex who I met some of his friends and we were like friendly for a while, and then they like stopped talking to me, and I was like, well, that was weird. Like what happened there? And then later found out that he told them to stop talking to me. And I hated that.
Yeah.
I mean, that feels really controlling. It was like he wanted to maintain separate relationships with me and with this group of friends, and he didn't like, us hanging out and getting information about him, if that makes
Mhm.
sense, like because he was doing stuff with them that he knew that I thought was a bit sketchy. Really, it
Yeah.
was what it was, and he didn't want me to find out about it. So he told them to stop talking to me. And that I think is controlling behavior, which is a
Yeah.
super red flag to me.
I totally agree. I think there could definitely very easily be a component of that. And I don't think people see that as controlling behavior, but ultimately at its
Mhm.
heart, it can be and it
Yeah.
is. Just because you don't want people associating doesn't have anything to do with them. That's your want and they don't have to follow that. And like you get to make a decision about what happens after that. But I
Right.
also wonder, have you heard of like the concept of it's called like when you call somebody like the missing stare?
Hmm. No,
So it's
tell me
like
about.
it's your friend in the friend group that everybody knows is problematic, but
Uh-huh.
everybody caters to. And I think
Mm.
every friend group probably has one of these. Every
Mhm.
hobby group has one of these. It's like their behavior like isn't that bad, but it's like you have to work around it. They're either high
Right.
maintenance or they're particular or they're just a
Mhm.
pain in the butt.
Mhm.
And everybody kind of like talks behind their back to figure out
Right.
how to mitigate this behavior. And like I
Mhm.
kind of wonder if the Alaska friend is this friend,
Right. Mhm.
right? Because this, as an adult, I'm going to assume that this letter writer is an adult. Like
Yeah.
when you're in your 20s, you're still an adult, even though you've got a lot to learn. I've still got a lot
Right.
to learn.
Right.
Everybody still has a lot to
We
learn.
do. Yeah.
So there can be a maturity issue, even if you are like an adult, right?
Mhm.
But I'm going to assume that they are adults.
Mhm.
And for them to acquiesce to a suggestion like this makes me wonder if they're used to acquiescing to this friend.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, they've already done a lot for this friend. Whether or not the friend asked them to help their girlfriend feel comfortable in a new city, that's a lot,
Yeah.
like, especially as an adult to be like, I have a life, but I'm gonna welcome you into my home.
Mhm.
They're already doing a lot for this friend. And I think, yeah, the more I think about it, the more I think, yeah, the friend was wrong to ask. I think, yes, I've been seeing this on, I guess it's probably TikTok, whenever you're like, oh, I saw this thing and like, shoot, it was on TikTok. But this idea of like, it's okay to ask for anything. And it's like, sure, you can ask for anything you want, but there are consequences just for asking. So you have to think about what your ask is,
Mhm.
it is like putting out there, like you can ask anything, but there are certain people who you can ask anything and they'll do it, and that's your responsibility because you asked something so ridiculous, or that you'll ask something that really hurts them, like yeah, you can ask
Mhm.
any question you want, you can ask for anything you want, but you still have to take responsibility for the consequences of your actions, and asking something is an action, like
Yeah, and like ultimately the Alaska friend is suffering very few consequences because
hmm
they're far away. Well, theoretically they're
right,
far away. The letter writer said that the
yeah,
girlfriend moved there for flights to Alaska. So theoretically
right.
they're probably far away from where that person is,
Most
even if they
places are
are in
far away from
Alaska.
Alaska.
Right, right. I guess they could be in Alaska, but it seems like they're far enough away that
Yeah,
flights are probably the option, right?
right.
So they're not suffering any consequences because they're
No.
physically far away, right? And
Right.
like the friend who, you're right, stuck their neck out, did this for the girlfriend, probably in hopes that this is helping the friend,
Hmm.
because they sound like a good and empathetic friend,
Right.
is now suffering even more consequences because of this fallout when they had been maybe forming a friendship with this other friend. It's just like
Right.
it feels like, yeah, it puts the writer in an unfair position. And by all,
Hmm.
like, hi, this writer could be a kleptomaniac for all I know. You know what I mean? Like, we don't
Right.
know
Right.
these
Right.
people who write in, but like
Right.
they seem empathetic and like they really stuck
Hmm.
their neck out, and now they're like suffering some consequences that have nothing to do with them. And so like I do feel a
No.
little bad for
Yeah.
them.
I do too. And I think, yeah, it's not a fair ask. And if you're an adult, you shouldn't be asking your friends, unless you have, like we've said, real reason and information, or a very solid case. You
Yeah.
shouldn't be asking people not to hang out with other people.
Hmm.
That's just like not your job. You, you,
Yeah, and I
I
want
don't
to.
even know that you can do that with your own children, let alone your friends. I mean, well, we know if you do it with your kids, you suffer consequences. Just think
Sure.
about any parent saying you can't hang out with that person. Wow, I'd love to hang out with that person.
Yeah, exactly. I also want to be clear though that like we know this because we know each other,
Right.
but to the greater
Yeah.
public, like we're not saying that like if this man, the Alaska friend, experienced abuse, that he owed the friend an
No,
explanation.
we're not saying that if the person in Alaska was abused,
No,
that
or
he owes his friend an explanation. However, like just a basic, even that sentence, like this person was abusive towards me, is more than our letter writer got.
sure, and also like just if you're going to make an ask like that, it needs to be substantiated with something. You know
Right.
what I mean? And like what was given was not something. In fact, it
Right.
was nothing.
It was nothing. It was nothing. And it just unfair to this girl. I don't know, maybe she is a terrible person, but if she's a terrible person, like, clue us in.
Mm-hmm.
How is she a terrible person? Because then also, your friend gets to decide. Even even in that situation, I think most people that I know would never be like, you can't associate with that person. They would just be like, you know what this person did to me? It was not great. You make your own decision.
I think we also know people who, I mean, I personally know people that I don't have personal beef with, but I know who have had maybe pretty serious beef. Nothing,
Right.
nothing to the extent of abuse, but
Right.
pretty serious beef with people that I do care about. But I'm
Hmm.
fine with this person. Like, I'm not
Right.
going to hold undue grudges in a
Hmm.
significant way. It's going to be in the back of my mind. Maybe I won't trust this person as much, but to say
Hmm.
hi to them, to maybe engage with them in a social situation where we both are at, like, I
Right.
think that this is normal behavior, right? Like, it's fine to
Hmm.
both know that somebody's got beef with one of your friends, but also be normal around them.
Right. And to like, just when you're in the grocery store, you can wave at somebody.
Literally.
Like, I wave at my worst enemies at the grocery store. You know what I mean? You know who
Yeah,
you are.
deuces up to that old lady at the grocery store
Yeah,
who told me my
right.
butt was small in
Oh
leggings.
yeah.
I would wave to her.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I
So
I wave
to
at high school
boil
bullies all
down
the
the
time.
advice, what would you
Ooh,
say?
yeah. Okay, boil it down, I'd say, to answer your questions, if I think I remember them correctly, I do think your friend was wrong to ask you this. It's an unfair ask. I think, you did agree to those terms, but sometimes someone asks you a question and in the moment you haven't fully thought it out, or you're
Mhm.
really put on the spot, and I think it's totally reasonable to just go back to your friend and be like, "Hey, I thought about this. I don't really feel comfortable with that. Just by the way, I'm probably going to like smile at her, reach out to her if I want
Definitely.
to. Like, it's not really your business." You can say that. You also can just do that. I mean, you could, like, we haven't even heard from this you haven't heard from this person at all. I don't know how comfortable you feel with that, but you can also just reach out to her and just be like, "Hey, how's it going? Sorry you guys broke up. No hard feelings from me." Like,
Right.
whatever. Like, friends break up. It's just most in relationships end in breakups.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's my
no,
advice.
I think you're right. And you know what? you give advice for a living, essentially. So I might follow it if I were the writer. But I want to thank the writer for writing in to Lizzy and
Me
letting us talk about
too.
this
And
on
I
the
want
pod. Yeah,
everyone
thank you so
else
much.
to. Like this question was great. Please send me more like juicy questions like this. It had a friendship, it had a romantic relationship, it had a long distance relationship, it had everything.
It had grocery stores, my favorite place.
God, I love grocery stores. I've been going to the food co-op here a lot. Oh, love it.
Oh,
yeah,
that's pretty
it's a
cool.
little bit like
We had
Portland.
one in college, which I loved. I know there are a few here in Portland, but I haven't. I refer to Fred Meyer. My roommate and I say, "Oh, we're gonna go visit our husband because Fred Meyer is the only man in our lives." So,
well, I love that, and I love grocery stores, and I think my husband's made fun of me a couple times because my favorite places in Marquette are like the food co-op, which sells Bob's Red Mill products, and the yoga studio. I've just been doing lots of yoga. He's like, "Oh, really? Oh, the white woman from Portland. Do you like the food co-op and the yoga studio?"
You're really leaning in, which I appreciate. But if you want to send your juicy questions, they don't have to require grocery stores, but we'd love it if they did. You can email Lizzy. What's your email?
It's L Acker, like slacker with no S, at Oregonian.com. You can tweet, but I guess, are we even calling it tweet anymore? I was off for 3 weeks, and now Twitter has a new name. You can pump your own gas in Oregon. I have a lot happened while I was gone. Yeah. Anyway, at Lizzy with 3 Z's, Acker. But just send me an email, or let me get back to you with the number you can text me at. Let's see. Sorry about that. Destiny and I have a very long Slack history.
We talk a lot of Slack, if you will. Ayo.
It's for work. Okay. Text the word advice to 503-751-8731 and then click the link and subscribe. And I will text you.
You can get a hold of Lizzy that way too. I'm at djohnson@oregonian.com. You don't really need to email me, but you can if you want. All of this information will be in the description of the podcast below, in the description of the YouTube video, where you can find us talking from different parts of the country, the middle of the country, and the West Coast. If you want to watch us chat. And please let us know what you think about this. Text Lizzy. You can give her opinion on this article or any other article. We'd love to chat with you. Send us your gossip. Send us your questions. And it's really
go to OregonLive.com. Yeah, I know. I missed you. Everybody go to OregonLive.com/why though, and stay tuned for next week when I'm in Oregon and Destiny's in Florida.
It'll be full sweat stash, and I don't want to hear anything about it. Yes, so you don't have to miss us. You can always find us at OregonLive.com.
Yeah, we're always there. Well, so good to talk to you. I missed you so. Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Listening to Why Though the podcast. Subscribe for weekly episodes wherever you listen to podcasts, and don't forget to leave us a 5-star review. If you're looking for more Why Though, check out my column that comes out every Tuesday on OregonLive.com. You can support our local journalism by going to OregonLive.com/pod support.